Teresa, as performance coaches, we're performance managers, right? Surely we are. But as a former COO and somebody that's held senior management positions, what is performance management to you?
Oh, great question. So performance management to me is all about getting the best out of your people. And I think this is where sometimes there is a little bit of confusion or a misunderstanding, because when you talk about performance management to people, sometimes they automatically go into that negative, oh, it's when people aren't performing and you have to work with them to improve, or people aren't performing and it's a process you do to manage them out. And it's so not that.
Agreed.
You know, performance management should all be about getting the best out of your people, whether or not that's looking at training and development plans, or making sure someone's settling into a role. It's the full package.
Well, maybe it's about getting them to do a little bit less.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, what kind of tools or methods or approach have you taken, or would you recommend to do that?
Okay, so I mean, there's formal and informal ways. Informally, having those just those check-in chats to see how people are doing, if they're managing okay, if everything's okay at home, just those general conversations, just to get to know your people a little bit better.
And what about formally?
Formally, then regular one-to-ones. And quite often they will follow a set agenda, and they should be written down, just so you've got something to refer back to check progress and things. And then, of course, appraisals. They tend to be annually, where you review the whole of the last year and you look to the future. And, the thing I love about appraisals is the focus on the future, because ideally you'll have had regular one-to-ones throughout the year. So, there's nothing that comes up as a surprise in an appraisal. So it's a review of the last year, but then it's a focus on the year ahead, and looking at, where do your people want to go? Where do they want to develop? Where does the business need them to develop? And let's look at how we get there.
Great point. So we'll set goals in there, yeah?
Absolutely.
Do you
Smart
set them?
ones.
Smart ones. Do you set the goals, or do you encourage them to?
So,
what would you suggest?
I actually like a balance of both, because obviously the business will have targets and goals that they need to achieve. So I will tend to have a kind of a ballpark in my head, but I very much want the person to lead the kind of where their goals are, how they're going to get there. Just because I feel that if the person has had some ownership over the goal that's been set, then they're just going to own it more, they're going to commit to it more. There might be some challenge, if I feel like someone's setting a safe goal, then I might challenge them to come on, think a little bit more aspirational. Let's see if we can get that a bit higher. Just to provide that little bit of external motivation.
Very good. And I guess, depending on the person and their background or their current state, you might just pull them down a little bit.
Absolutely.
Just
if I know that someone is maybe struggling a little bit, I don't know, maybe they've been given a new task, something that's kind of getting them to think about things differently, or they're having to learn something completely new, or if I know that someone's got a challenge in their home life, then absolutely I will kind of adjust, step off the gas and kind of look at, okay, what's going to feel comfortable, and let's give you something that you can achieve rather than something aspirational.
So we're talking about KPIs, really.
We are.
The metrics of performance. What else are you assessing or trying to manage effectively or measure?
So KPIs and targets, obviously. The other thing is behaviour, and I think that's probably one of the kind of underrated characteristics that isn't managed effectively, yet is probably the thing that causes the most concern and challenge to a manager. So looking at behaviours aligned to the values. If a company has values, their behaviours should be aligned to that. So picking that up early, you know, if you notice that someone isn't behaving in a way that aligns to your company's goals, values, even if your company doesn't have any set values, you will know how things are supposed to be around your place of work, what's expected, what isn't expected, what's acceptable, what isn't acceptable, and get them nipped in the bud really early on to stop anything from escalating.
Completely agree. Of course, it was Owen Eastwood from the All Blacks that famously came up with the formula that success in performance equals ability plus behaviour. It's not enough for our performers to have skill, knowledge and expertise. The best performers, and when we achieve the highest level, behave in a way that reflects the level of that ability.
Absolutely. There is one other thing, as well as behaviours and KPIs, it's the standards as well.
Talk to me about the standards.
So they're, you know, things that are maybe documented processes, things that are in policy, making sure that people are following policy, are adhering to processes and procedures, because they will be there for a reason. I'm not saying that they can't be challenged. If you don't agree with something, challenge it. But until that process is agreed that it's changed, then for me, they should still be followed.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think they'll be talking about turning up to work in the right state. That's standard. Turning up on the right time. Wearing the right equipment. And if it's PPE, for example, for health and safety, those kind of standards.
Absolutely.
Totally agree. We got this up, of course, human performance curve.
We can't talk about performance management without it.
No. I guess the only key thing I wanted to add to your points, which are fantastic, and it's great to have the insight of a senior manager in terms of what it means, because I'm sure everybody watching this will get some out of that. The human performance curve, so we talk about performance on a graduated vertical scale, but we talk about pressure here.
Yeah.
Ignore the stress at the moment. We talk about pressure. And we can see if we get the pressure right, then we can affect positively the level of performance.
Absolutely. And this is when I was talking to you about setting goals and making them aspirational. This is what I'm talking about, you know, getting people out of their comfort zone and into stretch. And I think it's one of those sometimes misunderstood. I know you always ask people, you know, who here thinks stress is a good thing? And the number of people who say, oh, I work better under stress. No, you don't. You work better under pressure, not under stress.
Completely agree. I think some of the key kind of objective metrics to consider at this high performance bit is, where are the levels of confidence in the performer? How supported do they feel? How sure do they feel that they're actually going to hit the deadline? Do they feel that they've got all the skills and the time and the resources? And as you say, there's a tipping point. So performance management is not just one direction, is it?
No, it's about bringing people back if we need to.
How do you do that?
So I always say, if you've got someone in strain, you can see that they're beginning to feel that they're losing control.
Overwhelmed,
deadlines are being missed, and you can see, then you want to bring them back into their comfort zone. Don't bring them back into stretch. You need to bring them back into comfort zone so that they can get that feeling of being in control back again.
Brilliant.
Only once they're back there would we then look to see, are we ready now to move back into stretch?
Fantastic.
But it's something that needs to be really closely monitored and managed.
The HSE talk about, in terms of performance, when we get into the panic zone, so this is overwhelm, the panic zone is out of control. When we no longer feel in control of our ability to affect the performance. And I couldn't agree with you more. It's such a good point. This isn't about bringing somebody back here. Performance management isn't just getting people to this point and trying to keep them there, because performance doesn't work that way. Performance is very secular, and we need rest, recovery and adaptation. So there will be down periods. It's not a high point all the time.
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right. It's the role of the manager to monitor the overwhelm, the fatigue, and certainly when somebody's out of control, and manage backwards. And I love your point. Don't bring them back into stretch. bring them back into comfort.
And I think it's the role of a manager to understand what makes their people tick.
Yeah.
And maximising that, giving them opportunities to tap into that. I just want to say, sometimes people are in comfort zone and that's where they want to be, and that's okay, providing, they are performing here, they're performing well. And if that's where they want to be, it could be that they've got other areas in their life that provides them with the challenge and the stretch. So if people are in comfort zone, managers shouldn't feel that they have to provide stretch to move them. If your people are happy and performing well here, then that's fine. That's
Agreed.
fine.
And of course, some businesses will have a natural seasonal effect of stretch, whether they're making toys and Christmas, etc., or something else in terms of the fuel industry. Whether there's different periods where we naturally get a stretch. It might be promotion. It might be just engaging somebody in a new project. That will do it. So absolutely agree. This is kind of where we want our people.
Yeah, we just need to know and understand our people.
Excellent.